Welcome to My Life, Tanya Applied, with Rabbi Simon Jacobson, a journey into the deepest teachings of Torah and their application to our personal, emotional, and psychological lives.
A good tevach, a good week. We continue our journey in the life-changing Sefer Tanya. This program is made possible by Rena Lights LLC and is an honor and memory of Rabbi Yosef Halevi Weinberg Olav Hashalom, Rabbi Moshe Pinchas HaKohen Katz Olav Hashalom, Rabbi Yael HaKohen Khan Olav Hashalom. It's also in schus a merit of Rabbi Zev Yecheskel HaKohen and Risha Katz Le'erich Yomim V'Shanim Tevis for many long, healthy years. And above all, in schus of all the tzahal, the brave and Mesiris Nefesh soldiers on the front lines in Eretz Yisrael, defending and protecting our men, women, and children. May Hashem protect them, Hashem protect Eden everywhere. So we are in the middle of chapter 18, close to the beginning of chapter 18 in Tanya, Perek Chai, Perek Yud Ches, where the Alter Rebbe began, L'teis v'zbir, further explanation, further understanding, Bayit Heitev, Milas Ma'oid, the word Ma'oid in the Pasuk Karav Elecha Dover Me'ed. What's the Ma'oid come to add? It's not just accessible, reachable, relevant, but Ma'oid. And as we discussed, L'teis Beer also emphasizes that it's coming as an addition to what we learned before, and what he's introducing now in full glory, if you wish, expansively, even though he discussed it briefly earlier, is Ava Misutera, the natural love that every neshama has. Like he says, Tzarech Leida Nemona. You have to truly understand, truly know. It's an interesting expression, as we pointed out. To have a very appreciate, a profound appreciation, recognition that what? Ki af misha daitek tzari b'yediyas Hashem. That even someone whose mind is weak, daitek tzara, or is not capable of even around the Hashem, in the level of Hovin b'gedulas ein sof baruch hu. He's not capable of appreciating, understanding the greatness of the divine, infinite. To give birth, even b'talumis libe, even in a concealed way, meaning even just what he spoke about in chapter 16, Ya'asa, that it's worthy of loving, even that he can't reach. Also not to give birth to a chilir or reverence and love. So he should know, Afal Pikain, Leiden Nemona, Afal Pikain, Korev Elecha Dover Me'ed, Lishmer Lasses Kol Mitzvah Sateir, V'Talmud Keneged Kulam B'Fiv, that it's very accessible, very reachable. Ulabove Mamish Ma'umka Deliba, Be'emes La'amite, B'Tchila V'Dechimu. How? We said even a Talumis Liboy is not the complete full-blown love, and here you're saying it's Bilavove. The answer is because the answer is because of the Shehi Ava Mishuteres Shebelev Klolos Yisrael. Because he's adding now not the love that's created through contemplation. That is the levels where a person can contemplate and be on a high level and actually awaken and stimulate a fiery passion to the divine. Even if he doesn't do that, he's able to at least appreciate that it's worthy loving God, that should bring him to action. But even if he can't do that, there's one more thing. There's the actual natural love of a Mesutera Shebelev Klos Yisrael. And this is not dependent on Aveda. Shehi Yerushalayim Aviseinu. This is an inheritance that we have from our patriarchs, from Aviseinu. So that is the level that he's introducing now. So now when you bring both together, we're talking now someone who's is not depending just on the Ava Mesoteres, this level that he calls Daite Ktsara. If he is contemplating, whether it brings a fiery passion or it brings the Osa that it's worthy to love God, in chapter 16, and he also has the Ava Mesoteres, so you can imagine that makes it even more stronger, the idea of Karav Elecha Dov Meid Beficha Belvavcha and the Levavcha. But now he's saying the Ma'oid because there's the Ava Mesoteres. So for a person with his bonus, for sure, even without his bonus, he's saying a strong statement here that he has the ability, that it should be be'emes lamite b'tchila rechimo, b'levove mamish mu'umka deliba. But this is not the imka deliba that comes from contemplation. That is the avodah, the eved delikim they spoke about in chapter 15, the hard work that actually creates a sustainable and a permanent love. Now we're talking a love that is there inherent and dormant within you. And is there miyarusha. Everybody has it as an inheritance. Think of it like the DNA of the neshama. It's part of the DNA. It's still not negating the need for avodah. You really need both. But all is not lost if a person can't reach that level of contemplation. Because he has the Ava Mesoteres, that's Yerushalayim Avosenu. And now we have to come to explain what this means. And as we discussed in the previous year, in the previous class, in Perek Beis, he already established that a divine soul is a chelik elikam mal mamish. It's a piece of godliness. And like a son to a father, bonim atam l'Hashem elekechem. It's interesting, that's also Avosenu. But there he's not talking about Avosenu, the patriarchs. There he's talking about the Eibishter, the Av. And we come from Moyach Ha'av, from Chachmasi Yisbarach, and Chuv v'Chachmasi Echad. So we're one with our Father, with the divine, with Elokus. But he did not speak about actualizing it. There he spoke about the very fact that we have it. Then in chapter 3 he started talking about the contemplation and the avodah of the faculties of the divine soul. Now we're going back and we're introducing Ava Mesoteres that comes from Yerushalayim Avosenu, from our patriarchs. So in addition to the Chelik Elikam and Mal Mamish, we also have what we have from the Ovis. And that adds, as we shall learn, much more than just the soul itself's connection to the divine. That's also a Madrega. In other words, you would say, does a Yid have a Ava Mesoteres hypothetically without the Avosenu? He doesn't say explicitly, but you have to say that he is a child of God's. The question is, does it affect him to the point that he has even a hidden love? What effect it has on him? So the Avosenu, the Yerushalayim Avosenu, actually helps actualize it. And that's what we're going to explain now. So now the Alter Rebbe continues, as we to understand this, only we must first understand an introductory, only we must first offer or understand an introductory explanation. And bayit hetiv, he uses the same expression he used in the beginning of the chapter. A good explanation. About this whole topic, and he's going to break it down into 4 key points. How do we reveal this love? So we're going to talk about now four aspects. Number 1, let's read inside. What do we need to explain well? Sheidish Avazu, the root of this love. Where does it come from? The Ava Sichlis that comes up in Seichel, up in Bananus that we learned earlier in Tanya, the root of it is contemplation. But where's the root of this love? What causes it to be what it is? That's number 1. Number 2, Sheidish Avazu, the inyana. And what is its inyan? What is its personality? What is its properties? What is it made of? How is it different than other forms of love? That's the second thing. And then the third thing. Ve'echi Yerushalanu. We said it's a Yerusha, it's an inheritance. How is it our inheritance? How can you inherit an emotion? And finally, number 4, Ve'ech nichel bo gam tchilu. And how does it also include reverence, yira? So, these 4 things the Alter Rebbe is now going to explain. In this chapter, we're going to explain primarily the root of the love, number 1, and number 3, how it's a Yerusha. The other 2 points, in Yonah, he's going to explain in chapter 19, the next chapter, and how it includes also Yira, Tchilu, that's going to be explained in chapter 19, and also in chapter 25. But that now lays out the structure of what he's going to explain about this Ava Mesuteres that we inherit. Okay. So he continues now and says like this. The inyan in this is Ki ha'oves hein amar kove. The answer to this, and specifically to the third question, how it's inherited, Ki ha'oves hein amar kove. The Medrash says that the patriarchs, our forefathers, or hein amar kove, they themselves were a merkava, a chariot to the divine. What's a merkava? A merkava has no other desire or will except serving as a vehicle for whatever it's carrying. So when the Medrash says hein amar kove, the ovis were merkava, they were simply a chariot, a vehicle for divine presence in this world. That means their entire life was completely dedicated, without any other agenda. That's Hovas Heinan Merkava. It's a tremendous example, a Merkava for what the Ovis were. What Chassidus would call bittul b'mitzias, an utter bittul, an utter dedication and commitment, suspending themselves just to serve as a vehicle for godliness. Like the Sefer HaBoyer says about Avram, that Chesed Elyon of Atzilus, once it saw Avram on earth, it says, what do you need me for? You have a walking Avram, you have a walking Chesed on earth. That's a Merkava. Val Cain, because they had that level of bittul, that level of total, utter, seamless dedication, and therefore serving as a vehicle for godliness in this world, Val Cain, zochu lahamshich nefesh ruach and neshama libneim achareim ad olam. And because of that, they merited to draw down to their future descendants forever, that they be endowed with nefesh, ruach, and neshama. The nefesh, ruach, and neshama, libneim achareim ad olam. Draw from where? From Eser Sfiris to Kedusha. From the 10 holy Sfiris. So in other words, like he says in Tanya earlier, the 10 Sfiris are the 10 divine channels, divine attributes, from Chochmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Heid, Yesod, Malchus. These 10 attributes are the divine channels of energy that vivify and energize and create and sustain all of existence. So everything in this earth, even the physical matters, all evolves from these 10 spheres. That's Asara Maimoras, the 10 statements that God uses, comes from the 10 spheres. However, in existence, creation, the creatures of this world, those 10 spheres are concealed. They are products of the divine instruments, the divine channels. A neshama embodies it, and a neshama actually carries that energy. That's why a neshama has the power to affect the world by doing a mitzvah with the physical matter. So we're revealing the divine energy within existence, but the neshama embodies it. It's actually an agent, not just a creation of the divine spheres, but actually an agent, a carrier. But how does it nimshach into the neshama, that power? So he says that's what the Ovis merited. Because of their tremendous devotion and total dedication, so they essentially captured and personified the spheres lamata. So that's why they gave their children, in their very DNA, and their inheritance, to have this that the neshama should also have a nefesh ruach neshama lebneim. This level of a neshama gdesha, nefesh ruach neshama, a holy soul, should be unique tafkid to their children. So in other words, had the Ovis not done this, God forbid, so they would have had children. And the children may have been moral people and kind people, but they wouldn't have the ability to have that total devotion, total connection. Here, the Ovis gave them that connection because they were living role models, and that became their schus, their merit. Now, where these Esses spheres manifest, so he continues. The Esses spheres de Kedusha, where they manifest, in the 4 worlds of Atzilus Bri Yitzir Asiyah, like we also learned earlier in Tanya. The spheres are nishtalshel. First, the 10 spheres in Atzilus, Elam Achdus, completely divine. Then from there they evolve into the world of Bria, and from Bria into Yitzir, and then into Asiyah. So what are we coming to? Why is this important to emphasize? Because even though we're all children of Ovis, but there's different levels. We get taka the koyach, like he said, namshir nefesh ruach neshama lebnei machareim ad elam. And nefesh ruach neshama, as we know, are also correspond to the 10 spheres. Because nefesh is nihi, the 3 lower spheres, or the 4 lower spheres. Ruach is midas, chagas, the midas, and chabad, that's ruach, and neshama is chabad. So it's now all coming from the spheres, but it comes down to different worlds because each neshama has a different level. Right. So if it's a neshama of Atzilus, which is actually how the Ovis are, then it's a neshama that's completely connected. If it's a neshama of Bria, it doesn't have quite that connection, but it's still a deep connection. Each one, it's according to its level. So there's the Esses spheres in each one of them. L'chol echad ve'echad kafi madrigose kafi maisav. So it comes down from the Ovis, it's nimshach, the nefesh ruach neshama from the 10 spheres into each of the worlds, and what distinguishes between one and the other. Each individual, according to his soul's level, within the spheres, within the 4 worlds, and his following his behavior. So simply put, according to his level means his initial level, every soul has its particular level. Not all souls are equal. And then there's the Aveda of the soul, which would be Kefi Maisav. This is the pashto, the simple interpretation. So like we say, for example, there's neshamas that are connected to Ruven. Neshamas from the Shevet Ruven. Neshamas from the Shevet Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, etc. Then we learn, for example, that the neshamas also correspond to the Shiva Kani HaMeneda, the 7 branches of the Meneda. The neshamas that come from Chesed, the neshamas from Gvura. That's Kefi Madregose. And the others are Mamshich. Each one according to their particular level. That's Madregose. And Kefi Maisov is the action, the Aveda of the person. The Aveda of the person can actually change things. He can elevate himself. Even if his neshama was on a lower level, his maisim elevate him. So that too is affected by the ovis and their hamshacha that they give to each neshama. So the Alter Rebbe is addressing both things here. Number one, this Ava Misoteres, that's the Yerusha Mavisenu, is to all Eden, to all their children, like every Yerusha, but children are different. 2 children could be very different. They both are Yashining, they both inherit, but they're different according to their level, according to Madreg, and according to their Aveda. And the second point is that there's a difference between them. So everyone has it Yerusha. So we're going back to the point of Ava Mesuteres that every person has. That's why even Daitik Tzoreh, he has dormant, a deep love, hidden love, in a dormant state to Hashem that comes from the Avis. But that still doesn't mean that we're all equal. There are differences. That's what he's addressing here, the differences between us. Because you can go back. The Bela, the first Ava, the Ava that comes through Aveda, that's for sure commensurate to your Aveda. No 2 people are alike. But you could say the Ava Mesuteres, like everybody has the same. But that's not the case. So there are things we inherit from our parents that you can say there's certain, but children are different. There are certain things that are in common, certain things are different. So he's now addressing the differences. Al Koponim, continues the Alter Rebbe. Al Koponim, no matter which level of soul, so even though there's some loftier and some lower levels, there are at least, everyone is coming from the 10 spheres and everyone's getting the Yerusha Mavisenu, without exception. Afilu l'Koponim, afilu l'Kal Shebekalim, Apeish Yisrael. Even the most, we say the Kal Shebekalim means the lenient of the lenient, the light of the light. Kal Shebekalim doesn't just mean light, it means someone who's not dedicated completely. You say a person Chemer means someone who takes something very seriously. Kal means he takes it lightly. But Kal Shebekalim is really more of an expression, a person who's on a very low level in Avedis Hashem. You could translate it as irreverent, you could translate it as someone who is shallow. Upeish Yisrael is easier to interpret. Sinful people who transgress. Peish Yisrael, Jews that are sinful. It says, no matter who, Al Koponim, even a Kal Shebekalim, a Peish Yisrael, Nimshach B'zivugam, Nefesh de Malchus D'Asiyah. They will cause that the soul to be endowed to their children through their act of conception. Zivugam is when there's the cohabitation of a husband and wife. So even if there's low levels, there'll be mamshich in their zivug, a nefesh de malchus d'asiyah, at the very least. Like he said, al koponim. Nefesh de malchus d'asiyah, just to explain what that means, he said nefesh ruach neshama, nefesh is the lowest level. Nefesh sheba nefesh is even a lower level, and there's nefesh mechus of malchus of asiyah, of the lowest level. So you could have nefesh of Abriya or Atzilus. You have nefesh of Yetzirah, but there's nefesh, the nefesh of Malchus of Asiyah. So from this you can derive that there's nefesh of higher levels of Asiyah. There's Ruach, there's Neshama. But upon him he will have nefesh, the Malchus Asiyah, because it all comes from that original source. She Madrega Tachtena Shebegedusha Asiyah is the lowest rung, the lowest level of the sacred world of Asiyah. Al Kaponim that he'll have, because that comes from Yerusha. Even if it comes down in the lower level, even according to Kfi Madregose, Al Maisov, it's a lower level, but he's still getting that Al Kaponim. So this is all emphasizing how everyone, remember, Kodev Elecha Dover made, everyone, even Kal Shebekal and Pesha Yisrael, even someone who cannot contemplate on the divine, but he has the Ava Mesoteres. Yes, it's in a lower state, but he has it. He's a child of the Avis, and as such he inherited it from them. So this answers the question, how? He said before, the third question was what? How is that a Yerusha? Echi Yerusha lanu. This is how it's a Yerusha. That even the lowest level also inherits this from the others. And then he continues and says, Va'afal pikein. Even though it's the lowest level, Malchus, the Malchus of Asiyah, like he said, so even though it's in that level, nevertheless, since it's one of the 10 holy spheres, it contains all the other spheres in it. And he's going to continue now to explain how the other spheres are also there. Yes, they're concealed there, but they're there. So it's not just that he connects to his father, to the Ovis, to the patriarchs, but he actually also has the other spheres, which we'll discuss in the next year. So we'll stop here, but it comes to show you how the Alter Rebbe is explaining how it's mamish relevant to every person. We're not talking about someone we're talking about someone who's not contemplating, but he has a neshama. And he's a child of the Ovis. So imagine, every Jew, no matter who he is, has these levels. And we'll discuss it more in the next class. A good tavoch. TanyaApplied.com is where you can find these and all the previous programs.
This has been My Life, Tanya Applied with Rabbi Simon Jacobson. Please join us again next week. Visit ChasidusApplied.com for archived classes and more resources.